right, so let's talk about modifiers for a little bit. Modifiers, that's what LI calls them. We've had them in the LI line, and I think since like LI was born, almost 30 years ago. Some people call them correctors. Some people call them neutralizers. I've seen them called a few toners. I just saw the word toner not too long ago. So lots of different terms to call them. LI calls them modifiers. And typically the three basic colors of modifiers or correctors, whatever you want to call them, are yellow, green, and orange. Those are the three basic colors. You do have to be careful. I know some lines, they put a lot of titanium into their modifiers, and you got to be super careful with that. LI, we do not add titanium into our modifiers if at all possible. Our green is actually like a chromium green. It's a one colorant green, and it's fantastic. So yellow, green, orange, and modifiers. I always used them. When needed, and they are needed. They are needed in our work. I always believed in them. I always understood why they were created, why they were in the LI line, and why there was a need for them, and I went through some hardships with modifiers, like using straight orange, too much. When I first started doing PMU, adding straight orange to a blonde color, using straight orange on, like a Fitz 1 or Fitz 2, and having that orange come back to haunt me and whatnot. It takes a minute to really understand modifiers, when to use them, when you don't, when not to use them, how much to use, and things like that. And then we watched the whole industry a few years ago when microblading exploded on the scene. We watched, just a huge, tons, hundreds and thousands of artists abuse modifiers. They were being taught to add orange in everything, every brow color you choose for every single client. That's what they were being taught to do in their initial training. And of course, that's not how we use modifiers. That's really, I remember calling it like abusing orange, abusing modifiers. And that's how I saw it. They were just way overusing them. And then of course everybody's, their brows are all healing orange, or in 6 months or a year, they're turning orange because they added way more orange than the skin required. But anyway, and then every time new pigments enter the industry, they try to find their own little niche and their own like every company does with, all our products. You try to be a little bit different and unique and whatnot. And there were some, pigment lines that really didn't believe in modifiers. They didn't think the modifier was needed. That was, the philosophy of some people. We don't need modifiers. Modifiers are just, a waste of money. I can remember, and then people buying into this philosophy, right? And then I can remember LI taking a little bit of a beating over that. I can remember, people jumping on that train and, not being so kind to LI and making statements that, people like, companies like LI or other companies that make modifiers and sell modifiers just another way to make extra money and this, that, and the, there was just some things being thrown around, back then. And to be quite honest with you, it really pissed me off. But because it was just all misinformation. It really, really was. And And I knew the real purpose of modifiers. I knew they were needed. One of the philosophies of, was, well, if you make the pigment strong enough, it will just cover up the undertone. It will just cover up, shitty work. It will just cover up, a fugitive color. And that didn't work out very well. And not having modifiers within a brand of pigments, that didn't last that long. We saw these companies start to add modifiers, and now modifiers. No, so here we are, full circle, right? Here we are, 8 years later, and we come full circle. And this happens all the time in the industry with lots of different things, lots of different products, lots of different topics. You're talking techniques even. I've been in this industry long enough where I have seen things come full circle. So there was a period of time, where everybody, understood modifiers and were using them responsibly, understood the need for them. And then modifiers were being abused. Super, especially that orange, right? Because, microblading heals a little bit cooler, can heal a lot cooler than a shaded brow. And so all these, training classes, these trainers were telling their students, put orange in everything. That will keep the gray away. And then so, you saw an abuse of orange, and then you saw all these orange eyebrows popping up. And of course, even within the LI pigment line, for Pete's sake. I mean, it was just happening like crazy. And then, some pigment lines got blamed. So when all that was going on, I think people got afraid of modifiers. And I think some pigment lines, tried to get away from modifiers. No modifiers in our line. Modifiers aren't needed. This, that, and the other. And then now here we are, full circle again. People understand we do need modifiers. They serve a really important purpose in our work on a couple of different fronts. But they do need to be understood, and they do need to be respected, and they do need to be used responsibly. So modifiers, the purpose is to neutralize or correct a fugitive color. A fugitive color is, we use the word fugitive when a color has aged off base, meaning a brown has turned red. So that red is considered a fugitive color. Okay, so we're talking red, pink, orange, blue, green, purple, right? Those are all fugitive colors that we do not want to see as our brow starts to age. So if your brow does start to age that, oftentimes it's not even our own work, right? We're fixing other people's work. So you can have clients that come to you from other technicians, with a pink brow, with a purple brow, with a gray brow, blue brow. And modifiers are needed and really efficient in neutralizing that fugitive color and turning it back to brown, or heading it back to brown. If we're not going to remove it. There certainly are some instances where it's just too saturated and you don't want to color correct it. Color correcting it is not going to be the best way to approach it. Actually get in there and doing some lightening, saline sessions are going to be the best way to approach it. But if it's not that saturated and it can be turned back to a pretty color by using modifiers, if we can color correct it, then I do. I mean, I certainly do. And you want to, right? You only want to have to remove or lighten if we have to, if they're outside of the realm of color correcting. So that's one reason, to neutralize and correct fugitive colors. The other reason is we use it kind of as a seasoner to add to our target colors, to kind of tweak or customize that target color to be a little warmer, or whatnot, or a little bit more golden for that particular client and that particular skin type. So So let's say, you got a client come in and she looks a little cool and, you're afraid she's going to ash out your pigment a little bit. Well, then that's a good reason to add a little bit of warmth, maybe a warm modifier. If you see purple in the skin, you got a client come in and they got a strong purple undertone, whatever target color you're using, I always add a little bit of yellow because, right, yellow neutralizes and cancels out purple. So those, for that reason, modifiers are fantastic. I mean, I probably add warmth to maybe 30-40% of my brow clients, and that's about it. Today I did a brow and I added warmth, but I did not actually use a modifier to add that warmth. I used a target color. We get a color in the LI line called Beautiful Blonde, and that's a standalone warm opaque blonde. You can it's a target color. So straight out of the bottle, you can tattoo it on a client, and it heals this beautiful, warm, opaque blonde, and it ages beautiful. And sometimes, we don't actually have to warm up a color with a modifier. We don't have to go as strong as a modifier. Sometimes we can just use a warm blonde, a target color, and that's going to be enough warmth. That's going to be all the warmth that you need. Because keep in mind, I'm going to speak about LI only. I don't know about other pigment lines, but in the LI pigment line, our modifiers are strong. They're strong. They are, they're meant to be strong because they're neutralizers. They're meant to go in and neutralize and start turning that red brow back to brown or that blue brow back to brown. So they're strong. And the most you ever want to add of a warm modifier to a target color is 5%. No more than like 5%. 5%. I mean, that's the most, really, because that's how strong they are. So you got to keep that in mind, especially if you use the LI line, that our modifiers, they're stronger and they're more concentrated, than our target colors, because of, the way we use them. They need to be. And sometimes we can pick target colors that have, warmth right in them or yellow right in the base, to where you don't have to manually add yellow or manually add warmth. And that's where color theory comes in. I think that's why color theory is so important for everybody to learn. It's and you should want to learn it. Sometimes I get really disappointed because I just see so many basic questions on color theory. I see people that they don't want to study it. They don't want to learn it. And my thoughts on, the way I feel about it is I loved PMU like so fucking much. It fascinated me. And I knew this is what I was going to do the rest of my life. And I fell in love with it really, 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 really quickly and deeply in love with it. And because of my love for PMU, no one had to beg me or tell me, you need to learn this or you need to study this. It's like I wanted to. I couldn't learn enough. I wanted to learn, the skin and the undertones and fully understand it. I wanted to learn pigments and modifiers. I wanted to learn needle. I wanted to learn machine. I wanted to learn every single aspect of PMU that affected my work, my healed result. And it was my pleasure, to learn and read and study. It wasn't always fun, because you don't always understand everything, starting out. I think it probably took me 5 years to really wrap my brain around color theory, and especially skin undertones, and seeing the undertones in someone's face, and really picking the right target color, and being calculated, being super, calculated with my my pigment choices and my modifiers and when to, when not to, how much. That takes time. So I understand there's, a frustration sometimes, because anytime you suck at anything, right, or you're not good, you don't understand, there's just frustration. You just want to be good. You want to be good yesterday. You don't want to wait. You just want to be good. And it doesn't happen like that. But you just got to stay patient. You got to stay the course. And so I just feel like if you love PMU, then you would want to learn color theory inside and out, to where, you just fully grasp it and understand it. Because the more you understand pigments, color theory, skin undertones, modifiers, everything that goes along with that, the more predictable your healed results. You can almost predict your healed results with high accuracy. That's where I am in my career. I see Amber, Michonne, and all these, these great artists that are still young in their career, getting to be to their 6 and 7 year mark in the industry. And I see them, they're getting to where they just got it. They don't even have to hardly think anymore, And once you reach that level of knowledge and confidence, and it just changes everything. It just changes everything. So yeah, I would like encourage you. I'd like to see more people, really, just dive in and study color theory. And I get there's lots of different opinions and misinformation, stuff like that. So sometimes you got to weed through all that crap, right? But I think my color theory class has been out there like 8 years, and it's fundamental. It's and it doesn't, the information doesn't really change, because it's just fundamental, universal, information. Not that it hasn't like changed somewhat, because I'm always learning and figuring out new ways, to teach and whatnot. But the fundamentals of color theory and skin undertone and pigments, 10 years ago are the same fundamentals today. We're just applying those fundamentals to new techniques, whip shading, single needle, microblading, things like that. But it's still fundamental knowledge. It's universal, no matter what pigment line you use. Skin undertones is skin undertones, Pigment theory is pigment theory. The science of pigments is the science of pigments, no matter what brand you're using. Corrections is corrections, no matter what brand you're using. So there's a lot of information within the color theory arena that is universal across the board, no matter what pigment line you're using. So yeah, so dive into color theory. So I think, and this is the question that kind of got me going. There was a question, and she felt she posted a picture, and she felt she should have added a little bit of ungray. Gray Vanish, which is in the LI pigment line. Gray Vanish isn't straight orange. It's a yellow orange, right? So we've got ungray, which is straight orange. And then we've got Gray Vanish, which is yellow and orange. So it's not quite as warm as straight orange. And she posted a picture, and right after she did the brows, and she was kind of freaking out. And she felt, oh my God, now that I look at her, I think I should have added some Gray Vanish. And, I looked at the picture, I kind of blew it up, and I looked at the skin and the client and whatnot. And, my thoughts were, I think you made the right choice. I think, I don't think you should have. And you definitely shouldn't lose sleep over this. Maybe the client was borderline. She used classic brown, which is a medium dark. It's not super cool, because it's not like super dark. But so maybe it was like borderline. She could have added a little bit of warmth. But I don't think that's going to come back and bite her in the ass, right? The way I feel about it is if it's borderline, like this particular client was, and you don't add any warmth, you just use a color like right out of the bottle. Well, now that client gets to go heal that color straight out of the bottle without being modified. That client will come back in 6 weeks and you really get to see what her skin does without the addition of any warmth or any modifiers. That gives you a really organic and true assessment of her skin and how it pulls. And if it so happens it did pull a little ashy, like that's nothing to like freak out about. At the follow-up, you can actually take the same color and now add some warmth, or go a little bit lighter if you don't, if you don't want the brow to heal any deeper in tone, maybe go down a little bit lighter, and add a little bit of warmth, at the follow-up. And then when she heals the second time around, she should heal, a beautiful tone. I think that is a much better approach than if it's borderline, you're not sure, and you add orange, and that skin did not need it. It didn't need any orange at all. And there's no coolness in the skin to eat up that orange. You can be left with an orange hangover, right? Either that brow is going to heal like too warm, or as it ages, you're going to start to see that orange rear its ugly head, because orange can come back and bite you in the ass, big time, right? And so, and then you're talking correcting. Now you have to correct your own work because you added way too much warmth. You added more warmth than the skin needed, could use or eat up or absorb, if you. And if that skin doesn't have enough coolness to absorb all the orange, where do you think that orange goes? It gets left behind. You're going to see it. You're definitely going to see it either in the healed result or as it ages. And that's a correction. But if your brow heals a little ashy, and I'm not talking battleship gray, right? Because that's a whole different story. But a little ashy, little on the ashy side. You wish it was a little bit more to the neutral tone, or not quite as ashy. To me, that's not a correction. To me, that is an adjustment. And it's much easier to make an adjustment and get the brow back on tone, if you will, than to have to now correct an orange or too warm eyebrow. Because to correct a too warm eyebrow is too warm. Now you have to add in a whole different color. Now you got to start adding green, to the fucking to the fucking formula. And so you have to start, doing that. And so that's where I feel about that. Yeah, you just have to be careful. So there's a lot of people out there, a lot of newbies, right? We're uploading, we got the Girlz Inc. Product and Education Board, and we're uploading 20, 30 people a day. And most of these artists that I'm uploading, they've been doing PMU a year or less. So we've got a lot of newbies, in the industry. And when you're that young in the industry, your eye is not developed. I mean, I can remember going, what do you mean there's purple in her skin? I don't see no fucking purple. You just don't see it. You can't, your eye is not trained to see that. And developing your eye to see the undertone and learning and studying all the information, that takes time. It can take years for some people. And so while your eye is developing and you're learning these things, it's better to add less warmth and have to add more to follow up than to add too much in the beginning. And now you're chasing that orange. Now you're trying to tone down and fix that orange. That, and some people don't agree with me. I mean, some people, feel the opposite of me. And that's okay. It's okay to, disagree. Just because I disagree with you doesn't mean I don't like you. Right? Only if the whole world could get back to that. Right? Yeah, I know. A lot of people are disagreeing these days and they seem to hate each other. But I can disagree with somebody and still, really have a lot of respect and really like them. But I think it's better to add less warmth and have it heal, a bit ashy, and have to add more as you go. And baby steps, you're learning that skin. Look, when you first sit down to tattoo a client, you don't know that skin. You've never tattooed it before. You don't know what it pulls, how it pulls. You just don't really know that skin. That very first session is your first introduction to that skin. And once you see your brows healed, 6-8 weeks later, and you see how it healed, well, you make your notes. Now you're learning that skin. You're in the beginning learning stages of that particular skin, that particular client's skin, and what it does, what it does not do, and what you're going to have to manually add or not add as you work on her throughout the years. So I think it's good to be conservative with your mods, especially when we're talking orange. When you're talking yellow, yellow is just one of those colors that it doesn't come back to bite you in the ass like orange does. It just doesn't. It's almost like, when you take vitamins and you go pee and your pee's like really, really yellow, right? That's just your body peeing out like, what it didn't need. And it's kind of like that, I kind of use that analogy for yellow. If you're, yellow's different than orange in the sense, if you're looking at skin and you're not sure if you should add yellow or not, I say add it, because it does no harm to add it, even if the skin didn't need it, even if the skin, there was no purple, right? Because sometimes you look at skin, you're like, man, I don't know if, is that a purple undertone or not? I can't tell. I'm looking under the eyes. I'm looking here. Can't quite tell. But when in doubt, add yellow. Because like I said, if you add it, it's there if you did need it. And if the skin did not need it, there's no harm, no foul with yellow. But orange is different, especially straight up orange. That's a whole nother beast. And it's it's just very different. And when you add orange and the skin didn't need it, that can come back to bite you, and your brows can end up healing like shit, and your client's upset. Now you got to get out a green modifier and you got to correct the orange. And if you overcorrect with green, now the brows can heal a little bit, ashy again. I mean, it's this whole, dance, with the orange. So, be careful with that orange. Be careful with even yellow orange, even gray vanish, even though it's not as strong as orange. I mean, it's strong. It's pretty strong. There's orange in there, so you got to be careful. Caribbean mod, that's like a red, like a orange-based red. They're all strong, and you got to use them responsibly. But here we are now, modifiers. People are back using them. Trying to figure them out, trying to learn them, when to use them, when not to use them, how much. So, just be careful with them. You can overuse them and end up having to, correct your own work. So that is my ditty on modifiers. Not that you care, Olivia.
I do care.
Well, because you got to help me answer questions on them.
Yeah.
On modifiers. Is there anything you've noticed about modifiers in the last, any particular questions you've had on modifiers?
Oh, do you have to add a modifier to an eyeliner color?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, I, I never have. I just never have. I've only used modifiers, Caribbean mod, when I was correcting like a blue eyebrow. I've gotten a handful of blue eyebrows from other techs come into the studio, and to get that blue eyeliner, I mean, really blue, like, like not good looking blue. And I've gone over it with Caribbean mod and then, layered black on top of that. And that works really, really, really good to correct a blue eyebrow. If the eyebrows like just gray, like I typically don't use a modifier. I'll just go over it with black, right? Because all black fades down to gray. Grays, if you water down black, you get gray. Um, so the gray doesn't bother me too much, but those blues. But no, a brand new fresh eyeliner, do I put a modifier into my black? I do not. I never have, but I do know some people do, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some people like to put a drop of orange or a drop of Caribbean mod into their pigment of black eyeliner for insurance. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. I will say this: if you're a technician that's getting blue, like a blue eyeliner result, a lot, like a lot of your eyeliners are healing blue, then there's an issue, right? There's an issue. It's either your black pigment that you're using, because we talked about this last week with carbons. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of carbons for pigment manufacturers to use. And some carbons are, they're blue based carbons. Some carbons are like an ash gray based. And then you have carbons that are a true black base. And so for LI, we use that true black based carbon. So with LI blacks, whether it's, onyx, the iron oxide black, or, the carbons in the LI line, I don't really get blue results. Once in a blue moon, no pun intended, I'll get like a client that it's blue. I mean, it's black, but you can see this tinge of blue, and I've seen that like a handful of times. The last 10 years, not that often, and typically that's going to be. They've got a strong blue lid, like lots of blue blood vessels. If you look at their eyelids, they're blue. Usually what I'll do is I'll do another coat of black. And if I can get better coverage, it's going to kind of cover that up. But no, I'm not. I just never really been into adding, warm modifiers for my black eyeliners. But if you're getting a lot of blues, then it could be the black you're using. If you're using an LI black or a really good black and you're still getting a lot of blues, then it's something with your technique. It could be you're going slightly too deep, because imagine how thin that eyelid skin is. It's super thin. Or you're overworking. You're overworking the skin. It can be that. So, we really shouldn't be, if you're using a good black, a true black-based carbon or black-based iron oxide, and you're not going too deep, you're not overworking, you should not be getting a lot of blue, in your healed eyeliner work. You just shouldn't. And if you are, just kind of take a look at your formula, what you're using, and pay particular attention on how you're working. It could be the needle, could be a few different things that you might need to change up or work on, because most of us have been doing eyeliners a long time. We just don't get blue. You don't get a lot of blue. So you do see it with people that are, more struggling with eyeliners. Maybe they're trying to, figure out their depth, or they're overworking a little bit too much, things like that. And there are some, blue-based blacks out there, in the industry. And, that will definitely give you a blue or a black blue result, if you're using a blue-based carbon. So, okay. So that's enough on pigments, pigment overload.
Yeah.
I know, but this is all like really great stuff. Really great stuff, I think.